The current food crisis, food shortage, and food price increase may be orchestrated to lead us down a specific path. I'll show you what one of those paths might be. Before get started, we're talking about food, and you should be stocking up on food. And your primary thing should be canned goods, dry goods, and then also gardening, but you should be stocking up on it. Dry emergency food is great when you don't have the time or the energy to cook a meal, but you still need the energy when things become bad and stress levels are high, so it's a good option for those times. When it comes to food, we've been pointing out all the shortages and major cracks in the system for a while now. You can find articles and news reports from several years ago that discuss how Americans waste 40% of the food they produce because they have so much that they give it away or ship it around the world. And because we are the world's fattest nation, we still end up throwing away 40% of the food we produce. How did we go from being the fattest nation on the planet to wasting 40% of the food we produce? There is no one answer to the question of how, but the answer to the question of why could very well be that they want us to go down a path where they have more absolute control over our food, since they can control the masses if they can control the food. It's a joke that most people would find funny. There are some people who are willing to accept things that they never would have accepted before, such as lab-created food, which is novel, but also a joke and not something that is actually done. But when people are desperate, they are willing to accept things that they never would have accepted before. This is the elitist economic publication you should check into if you don't know what it is, since it's well known that whatever the economist says, here's their newest front cover warning that a food catastrophe is on the way. And this is a global magazine, so it's not only the United States that will be affected. The only way to save the planet is to stop farming, and they want this to be known because of what he's saying. If he were a nobody, because he kind of is a nobody, it's because of what he's saying that they want this to be known that the only way to save all this food catastrophe stuff is to end farming. We need to stop farming, okay? Stop all this traditional type farming, where you grow your own food, raise your chickens, and your sheep, and your cows and pigs, and all that kind of stuff. For years, people have talked about lab-created food. We've seen some examples of this, but we're talking about something that's grown entirely in a laboratory, not just a combination of plant parts and other ingredients. This has been going on for years, and you can go back a decade or more to hear people talking about it. We should refer to it as cultivated meat instead of cultivated food, because when you hear the terms cultivated food or cultivated meat, they refer to something that has been produced synthetically in a laboratory, not something like my wife's kefir or your garden, which are examples of cultivated food or cultivated food. When I was conducting some research for this, I came across multiple pieces, some of which were at least 3 or 4 years old, and some of which were nearly a decade old. There was a time when some were saying that 2022 will be the year for lab-created food or cultured meat. According to what I've researched, the FDA is currently in its last stages of approving a cultured lab-grown meat for the general public, but there is a lot of money being invested in this. They talk about how well everyone else in the world is doing it well. Not everyone, but at least the people in the really poor countries, they are eating bugs, so why can't we? Insects is common in many parts of the world. It's just never caught on in the United States. Around the world, 2 billion people eat insects. You're absolutely correct. The Clinton Foundation has pushed for the creation of lab-created food, and the UN, the World Economic Forum, and other organizations have also pushed for it. You cannot tell me that there isn't a lot of money being spent on this.